So welcome, everyone. My name is Kate Bruner. I am a regional early literacy specialist with Growing Readers Together, which is an initiative of the Colorado State Library. And funding from the Colorado Shines Brighter Preschool Development Grant allows Growing Readers Together to provide additional staff and services through our early literacy support team to help Colorado libraries serve informal family, friends, and neighbor caregivers in their communities. These new services are open to any public library in Colorado, regardless of their current or previous participation with Growing Readers Together. This GRT QuickBites, 20 Minutes Topics in Early Learning, is one of the first offerings of this GRT expansion project. And these micro-learning professional development opportunities are intended to amp up your early literacy programs and help you shine a light on early learning. So this is the new Growing Readers Together Early Literacy Support Team, of which I am part of. So I'm your presenter today, Kate Bruner, and some of the other GRT QuickBites will be presented by other members of the team later this month, and that includes Melody Garcia and Gail Yearbeck. And Gail is here today, actually, so thank you, Gail, for coming. So in Colorado today, it's estimated that up to 57% of children under 6 are actually cared for informally by family members, friends, and neighbors, what we call FFN caregivers. The percentage of children cared for by FFN caregivers increases in small towns, mountain towns, and rural areas with less access to professional development care. Growing Readers Together prioritizes library services to FFN communities, and over the past 3 years, participating libraries have connected with this group and expanded their early literacy knowledge and access in their own communities. Quite likely, these informal caregivers are actually already in your library. The public library is perfectly situated to support early learning, particularly for children in informal care without professional support systems. It's our hope that by making early literacy intentional, transparent, and accessible in all Colorado libraries, every child can have access to early learning opportunities, regardless of their specific care situation. So what we're going to do with QuickBites is dig into various ways that your library can enhance your early learning outreach and offerings to FFN caregivers and the children they care for. So these are today's learning objectives, and we're going to keep this fairly simple. The idea is to hopefully communicate to you the elements of a caregiver cafe, and then give you the ability to know how to start a caregiver cafe in your library, should you find this idea exciting. And what would any early literacy library presentation be without a little bit of story time? So one of the things that I want to share with you is the story of how Caregiver Cafe came about. So before I got started with the State Library Project, I was working for Pine River Library as their Children's Services Manager, and I do still work there part-time. And I noticed while I was working there that what I was seeing in my community was a lot of grandparents coming in with young children to library programs, and a lot of moms meeting up at the library and swapping care, perhaps. So both mothers meeting at the library, and then one mom watching all the kids while another mom took a meeting or for a home business or ran errands or things like that. So there was a lot of friend and neighbor care swapping, and then a lot of like grandparents caring for younger children while the parents of those families were working. And so I was kind of starting to have some casual conversations with them around, what their needs were, and they really weren't very connected to each other. They weren't aware that other people in the community were sort of involved in similar care arrangements. And so I thought it would be perhaps a good thing to do to maybe hold some space for them in the library to create relationships between each other, as well as get a better sense of what their needs were in our community in particular. So I bought a tea kettle, an electric tea kettle, and a coffee pot, and got some pastries from a local bakery and some snacks for the kids. And I set these out in the programming room right after our music and movement class, which we call Groove and Grow. And along with those, I created a resource buffet of flyers and brochures and other resources that I thought might be of interest to this particular population, and basically just invited them to stay a little bit longer in the library after that program to connect with each other, have a cup of coffee, relax. The kids could play, and we have toys in our programming room, so they could play the train table or whatnot, and just kind of build relationship and connect better with each other. So this is kind of how Caregiver Cafe began, and it evolved from there. So when I started planning Caregiver Cafe, I began using an outcomes-based model. And there's a really fantastic article about this, a whole chapter about this in this new publication, Create, Innovate, and Serve, a Radical Approach to Children's and Youth Programming. And the chapter is by Melissa Gross, and she really does a great job of outlining this. And I find this to be an incredibly useful model, even for something like Caregiver Cafe, because it allows me to focus on outcomes versus outputs. And being in a rural community, this is something that is very important to us. And honestly, I think it's really where librarians come from when they are designing programming. I mean, yes, we count how many people came, but what we really want is we want our programming to have an impact. And so outputs are often numbers not necessarily with context. And so, I really like the IMLS definition of outcomes are changes in skill, knowledge, attitude, behavior, condition, or life status. And, I think that's really what we're going for when we design a program, in our community. So with Caregiver Cafe, I think one of the best things to do is start small and just choose one thing. So you can write an outcome goal statement that is pretty simple, and you can always scale it up later. And the important thing here is to keep it local. Think about what you are seeing in your community and what you can do, with the resources and time and budget and whatnot that you already have available to you. So, one of the things that might be an outcome goal statement for designing a Caregiver Cafe is for you to build relationships with 5 FFN caregivers in your community. Something very small, very manageable, but something that could be, the start to really connecting with this particular population in your community, and really finding out what their needs are. That may vary very different. There may be very different needs based on different communities across Colorado. So, and then once you've picked an outcome goal statement, just a simple sentence, for the goal of your Caregiver Cafe, then you can sort of design your approach to it to accomplish that outcome statement. So this is basically what I did, and I did actually have a very simple goal at first. It was to identify FFN caregivers in my community and to connect with them. And again, I just sort of set myself a small goal, like let's see if I can connect and build relationships with, 5 to 10 FFN caregivers in my community. So these were some tips and tricks that I found helpful that helped me launch a successful Caregiver Cafe. And these may vary based on your specific library system and your community and, whatever other policies or budgets or whatnot that you're working with. So, please don't take these as a perfect recipe that must be followed, but really just ideas that were the tips and tricks for me that were beneficial. And, if it sounds like something that would work in your community, go for it. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. That's to be expected. So one of the things I did was piggyback off of a popular pre-existing program. So we had this music and movement program, Groove and Grow, and it was pretty popular. And I was seeing some FFN caregivers come and attend that with the children they were caring for. So what I did is I scheduled Caregiver Cafe right after it. And, the advantages of this there were a couple of things at play. One of which was that I don't facilitate the music and movement program. We have this wonderful woman, Susan, who does that in our library. And so this wasn't back to back with a program I was already running. So I wasn't having to, clean up from one program, shift gears, get the other one started. I could come in and set up for Caregiver Cafe just as she was cleaning up from music and movement, and one program could flow right into the other. And basically what I was doing was just inviting people to stay for a little bit longer. They were already in the library. So, this allowed me to kind of leverage what was already a peak flow time in my children's area and, bring people into the program. And then from there, word of mouth kind of helped, generate larger attendance at Caregiver Cafe, and actually also larger attendance at the music and movement program. So they really they both benefited from that. So And then if it's possible for you in your library, depending on the scale of, attendance at your programs and your budget and any specific food-related policies you may already have, in place at your library, if you can feed people, that's always a great way to get them in. So, like I said, I bought a coffee pot and an electric tea kettle that I then squirreled away in the children's closet between caregiver cafes, so it wouldn't get used for anything else. And so that was sort of dedicated for that, and I had coffee and tea for that. And then I ended up building a relationship with a local bakery, and so I was able to provide, a little bit of pastries and then either granola bars or fresh fruit or applesauce or yogurt pouches for the kids. And that was very popular. And now again, scale and differing library policies might affect your ability to do that. But whether or not you can include food or drink in it, definitely create yourself a resource buffet. And so the idea behind this is an array of free grab and go resources that they might relate to your chosen outcome goal, but you think they'll be appealing to family, friends, and neighbor caregivers. And so when you first start out, you're kind of making guesses. And then as you build relationships and conversation with FFN caregivers, you might identify specific needs they have. And then you can resource broker. You can make sure that you're going and getting resources that will address specific needs that they've made you aware of. So for us, that was some flyers for local early childhood care and education related services and activities. Those might have been, we have a free forest school that's formed in the area, so a flyer for that, or it might have been a flyer for Safe Care or WIC or other, social services in the area that might be beneficial for information for those caregivers to pass on. The Bright by 3 kits were also very popular, so if you have not yet built a relationship with Bright by 3, I strongly suggest you get in touch with that organization because they have these free early learning kits that they will send you and that you can distribute in your library. So the state library has these wonderful literacy calendars, so I put those out as well. And then our library calendar, my business card, some early learning tip sheets, and I think even like a dining guide for the area. So anything you might think would be fun. The pharmacy in my town also offers free vitamins for children under the age of 12. So I got some flyers for that program and made sure we put that out as well. So, and then really just keep it casual. Like, this is an opportunity for a conversation. It's really much less of a formal program. And so, this is a chance for you to just sort of hang out and chat, have a cup of coffee or tea yourself. Listen to their stories is really what you're after here. Listen to these caregiver stories, listen to their needs, listen to their interests. This helps you build relationships with them and helps you to resource broker whenever and wherever you can with them. And this is also all data that you can then, look at other programming in your library, other outreach in your library that you could do, that you could build off of. But it's sort of an in with this particular population. So, and then, once I had a caregiver cafe kind of going, I wanted to step back and look at it and see, how well is this working? Is there something else I can do? What can I take this information that I'm and these experiences I'm having in this program? How can I learn from them? How can I use them in my library in other ways? So that's why I think it's also important as part of this outcome-based planning and evaluation process to go ahead and assess and evaluate even a program like Caregiver Cafe. And this doesn't have to be fancy, but by doing this process, you actually increase your responsiveness to your community. You're able to better justify a program like this to library stakeholders, and it supports iterative program design. So you're always being able to adjust and assess the needs of your community and readjust the designs of your programs. And once you get in the habit of doing that, even with something small like Caregiver Cafe, it can be incredibly beneficial. So I like easy peasy assessment tools because, from a practitioner standpoint, not a researcher standpoint, they're helpful, they're doable, they're manageable in my library. And two of those in particular are informal surveys and talkback boards. And so an informal survey is really just some intentional question asking with people. And so, you have particular questions, and again, maybe just one or two, that will help you gauge, am I meeting the outcome goal that I set? And so, you know, you're engaging in conversation with people anyway, so you work those particular questions into your conversations with them, and then document the feedback that you get after the fact, so you can hold on to it and use it. And the other assessment tool I really like a lot and use a lot in my library is the concept of a talkback board. And this actually comes, I believe, originally from Mo Yang at Anythink, and I actually learned about it through the Connected Learning Alliance, and I was involved with them in a different grant program. And so this is really just creating a poster board or writing on a whiteboard or some sort of board type display where you can ask some intentional questions. And it might be that you ask questions with several options and then you let people use sticky dots to vote for those various options. Or it can be open-ended questions where you leave out, like Post-it notes, and people can just write a little something on a Post-it note and stick it on the board. And it's just another way to collect data. It's a little less intimidating than a survey. You're more likely to get people to respond to a talkback board than if you were to hand them a paper survey and ask them to fill it out and give it back to you. And you get some really, interesting feedback. And so you can create your questions, to look at, am I what are their needs? What resources could I be providing? What resources have been most helpful that I've provided already? Anything that you feel like you would like to get some specific feedback on from the people attending your Caregiver Cafe. And then you can take that data and use it to help you evaluate, did you accomplish your desired outcome? So if my desired outcome was to build relationships, with 5 FFN caregivers in my community, then did those people participate in my assessment? Am I able to ask them questions about whether or not they felt like this was valuable in building a relationship with the library? And, if I'm getting feedback from them that it is, then I know that I'm meeting my desired outcome. If I'm not, or if people aren't coming in, then I can start to look at that. How can I change what I'm doing, to make it even more attractive to FFN caregivers? Can I be doing something different in the library? Could I take my Caregiver Cafe on the road and use it as a pop-up program? You can ask these questions and you can leverage your learning for better outreach and advocacy, and then also to engage, again, that iterative programming design. You take what you've learned and adjust it, and you just sort of begin the process again. Create a new outcome, tweak the program how you best need to tweak it for your community, and go from there. So I find building assessment and evaluation into this is just, it keeps me questioning, it keeps me learning, it keeps me listening. So it's a very valuable tool from my perspective. So that is Caregiver Cafe sort of in a nutshell, a very quick nutshell, or a quick bite, I guess I should say, since that's our webinar series title. But I did want to actually offer people the opportunity to maybe ask a couple of questions, or if you've hosted something similar or had a program that was really successful in connecting with FFN caregivers in your community, if you'd like to share that in the chat box, you're welcome to. We have a couple of minutes. Yeah, Gail, that's what I liked about it too, as well, because it actually really gave me, that relationship piece is really hard to quantify, but it also gave me just the opportunity to really understand, what are the specific needs of FFN caregivers in my community as far as early literacy and early learning, and then, to be able to take that data and actually do something with it after the fact was really great. So a similar program called We Connect in California. That's wonderful. I'm definitely going to check out that link. And I love that name as well. Thanks, Josie. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Yeah, informal programs can actually be powerful tools, definitely. Thank you. So if you have any other questions or comments or anything else you want to share, please feel free to get in touch with me. My contact information is on this slide. You'll see my email address and phone number for the State Library, and so you're welcome to reach out at any time. And I just want to say thank you all for joining us for this sort of inaugural QuickBites session. So I hope you found this useful. And if you're in Colorado and would like to bring the Growing Readers Together Early Literacy Support Team to your library to help you expand your outreach to family, friends, and neighbor caregivers, or you'd like further information on staff training on early literacy, I really encourage you to reach out to us. We are really excited about this project, so we're really interested in building relationships as well. So you'll also be able to find us at CalCon at the exhibit hall. We're actually at the State Library booth, and we'll be offering some one-on-one conversations that we're calling pop-up possibilities if you'd like to talk to any of the three of us there. We'll be presenting at the CLEL conference in October and also hosting workshops at the Regional Colorado State Library Youth Services meetings that Beth does across the state. We'll be joining her for those. And we are going to offer an in-depth 4-part webinar series in October that will really explore how to enhance your outreach services and programs specifically to FFN caregivers. So keep an eye out for that. We'll be putting information out on that. And our next QuickBites will be next Tuesday at noon with Gail. And I'm really excited about that one. I'm going to try to attend that one too. And she's going to be presenting Creating Synergy, Weaving Together Early Learning Services. So that'll be really fabulous. So we hope you join us for that. And we're really interested in your